The FIA gave us Abu Dhabi 2021, Jewelrygate, and now we have another ridiculous one, Swearinggate.
And into qualifying, I knew the car was...
Thank you, Max. Let's watch our language going forward.
After talking about the problems with Formula One, social media, and the British bias, it's time we talk about the FIA, an organisation that never fails to amaze us as Formula One fans, but not in a good way. There are so many examples of the stupid decisions made by the FIA. I bet we'll see a lot of them in the comments. Over the years I've watched Formula One, I've seen a lot of things happen, and many times the FIA is involved. They are inconsistent. They change regulations just to change them and turn a blind eye in obvious situations. With a rulebook that's bigger than anything you've seen in movies, they've gone too far. Abu Dhabi 2021 is one of those moments, a result-impacting decision by the then race director, Michael Masi. It was the year of Max Verstappen's official breakthrough, challenging the 7-time world champion, Lewis Hamilton. Amazing battles, knife-edge moments, and weird decisions. But it wasn't just Abu Dhabi that was strange. The Belgian Grand Prix with heavy rain, no racing, and half points was also odd. As usual, it was rainy at Spa-Francorchamps, with multiple delays due to poor visibility. They decided to start the race behind the safety car. They couldn't hand out points without official racing laps. After 2 laps behind the safety car, the race was officially red flagged and ended, with half points awarded to the top 10. It was a moment that impacted the championship standings. The race wasn't really a race and shouldn't have been treated as one. Then there's Abu Dhabi, a moment everyone knows about. Lewis Hamilton was dominating the race, on track to win his 8th championship, until Latifi crashed.
Nicholas Latifi has crashed.
A safety car followed and Verstappen was on new tyres. Lapped cars weren't allowed to overtake. Suddenly, the only cars between Hamilton and Verstappen could overtake, a decision that still upsets people to this day. As a result, in 2022, we moved on without Michael Masi. We also got a new generation of cars and Jewelrygate, a racing organisation worried about jewellery. You heard that right. The new race director, Niels Wittich, clamped down on a pre-existing rule prohibiting drivers from wearing jewellery on safety grounds. But that wasn't the only thing he clamped down on. The drivers also had to wear the correct underwear, compliant with FIA requirements. This led to Sebastian Vettel showing up with his underwear over his race suit, just to make a point about how absurd it was. Jewelrygate was clearly targeted at Hamilton, who had worn jewelry for 16 years without it ever being a safety issue. At the Miami Grand Prix, he arrived with extra bling, including 3 watches. Later, he said that people love to have power and enforce it. Before we get to Swearinggate, I just want to touch on another subject: track limits. Does anyone remember Austria 2023 with more than 1,200 track limit warnings? Something that was absolutely absurd. The FIA wanted more safety and added runoffs instead of gravel. They painted white lines, and if you went over them, you got a penalty. But they forgot about dirty air, racing, and drivers trying to extract everything from the car. So, of course, they would exceed track limits or other regulations. This wouldn't have been an issue if they just added a gravel trap, which would slow the cars down. An easy solution, if you ask me. Okay, Swearinggate. The FIA president, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, who we'll discuss later in this video, suddenly wanted to stop drivers from swearing. They had to limit the amount of swearing. He said the sport needed to differentiate itself from rap music. This prompted Lewis Hamilton to respond, saying it had a racial element to it, which I can understand. Since Formula One is broadcast worldwide, drivers do need to watch their language to protect the sport, children watching and those who might be offended. But it's Formula One management that controls the broadcasting, not the drivers. They decide what airs on television and usually bleep out every swear word. On Formula One social media channels, the spicy radio messages are showcased. So, why would the drivers need to change? When they're in the heat of the moment, bad things can be said. They are the only athletes so exposed in terms of what they say. Other athletes say a lot of bad things when they're full of adrenaline, but it doesn't get picked up. Max Verstappen has also made this point. Speaking of Verstappen, he's been made an example of. We all know he can be Mad Max. When asked about the car, he said, "I know the car was fucked." He was told to watch his language and, of course, he argued. Now, Verstappen has to do community service. He's done it before. But this reason is just stupid. Yes, drivers should watch their language in official press conferences, and yes, they were asked to watch their language in these conferences. But if they still swear, talk to them. Don't give them community service or other punishments. That won't work, and it's a battle they can't win. Verstappen has already shown that. After qualifying, he didn't give a full answer in the press conference. When asked if he would speak to the press outside the room, he said yes. What followed was a mini press conference in the paddock, a beautiful reaction if you ask me. The FIA looked foolish, and Verstappen reacted like a real champion and the bigger person. He was then backed by his fellow drivers and even by British pundits, who are usually not fans of this. Things like this will impact Verstappen and his longevity in the sport. I think it'll also impact the fans of the sport. I'm already frustrated with many things: the calendar, the cars, and now a ban on swearing that doesn't really make any sense. It's time to talk about Ben Sulayem. The FIA president is rather controversial, rather than being a good leader. He got into trouble with the false accusations against Susie Wolff, was under investigation for interfering with race results, and now caused swearinggate. It's not a good look for someone who's the face of the FIA. With the Susie Wolff accusations, his image was already damaged, but it was based on an article in a magazine. All the rival teams of her husband, Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff, raised concerns about both of them being involved in Formula One. But when the FIA launched an investigation, all 9 rival teams released a statement denying everything that had been said. The investigation was dropped in 48 hours. Then he was accused of interfering with race results and delaying the Las Vegas Grand Prix. It was about a penalty Fernando Alonso received when he wanted to reverse. The second accusation was about Las Vegas, where he allegedly pushed the FIA not to approve the track certification, which would have delayed the Grand Prix. The FIA cleared him of these allegations. Now, with swearinggate, we have another bad look for the FIA president. A warning would have been enough, but no, he wanted to hand out a penalty just to make a statement. It's something I can't understand. The FIA has much bigger problems, and so does Ben Sulayem. They should focus on having stewards capable of making good decisions. I'd also like consistency in these decisions. Sainz got a €25,000 penalty for crossing the track, while Hamilton and Norris were fined €50,000. Why is there a difference? Or what about the "if you're ahead at the apex, the corner is yours" rule? It's racing. Let the drivers race, and don't make up stupid rules like this. But that's not all. What about flexi wings? In 2021, when Red Bull had them, they were banned instantly. Now, in 2024, McLaren has flexi wings. It's obvious. Their front wing flexes a lot, and their rear wing even had a mini DRS. The latter got banned, but the damage was already done. They'd used it on tracks where it could be an advantage. Yes, they passed the durability tests, but I think that these tests are nonsense. They don't test them while driving, only while standing still. While there's a load on these wings, they can flex, but flex like McLaren's wings? I don't think that's right. I could go on and on. The sport, as I've said in the previous video, is in a weird state. Money rules more than racing. It's a shame, if you ask me. We can only air our concerns and hope they get picked up. Now you know everything that's wrong with the FIA, but what about Formula One, the cars, and all these street circuits? I highly suggest watching one of these videos on screen, because if you like this one, you'll definitely like one of these.